I want to thank Reagan for sending this in. This is actually highly relevant to what we were kind of talking about with this documentary. Again, continuing with the theme of you have the assimilationist, Democrat, liberal, normie gay rights activists, and then you have the anti-assimilationist queer activists. These are two different groups. Reagan found about a half-hour video. Is this about a book? It's called Market This. Queer radicals respond to gay assimilation. Let me just make this bigger so I can actually read it. This is from 2003, the year I graduated from college. While global capitalism is the defining feature of our times, many engage in an anti-capitalist resistance. Market This is a timely documentary that explores the desire for radical politics and culture in gay, lesbian, bisexual, two-spirit, and transgender community. The documentary begins in 1999, the year I graduated from high school, after the Queeruption gathering in New York City. During workshops and caucuses, and through discussion and entertainment, participants come together to explore ways that this community can sustain and validate itself without supporting a system that exploits poor people, women, people of color, etc., etc., etc. So this is a documentary explicitly about the difference between the normie gay rights Democrats and liberals and the radical revolutionary queer Marxists. So let's give it a watch and let's see what happened. More 90s goodness.
America Inc. I predict that in America Inc., citizens will have to pay for the right to vote. I predict that corporate sponsorship will become a requirement for citizenship in America Inc., that everyone will have a corporate logo tattooed on their forehead in exchange for the right to work and live, and that those without such a logo will become untouchable and be forced underground.
This is already great.
I predict that parents will have to register their newborns with their corporate employer in order to obtain a birth certificate and social security number for their child. I predict that in exchange for citizenship in corporate America, each child will belong to its corporate sponsor, and that parents will then be seen as surrogate caregivers whose role it is to raise that child until the time comes to deliver it into the hands of its corporate sponsor.
So it's always good to get, show businesses and corporate world that, the gay folks are, a buying power and a buying medium, and that it's good to be able to, look for them and make them as a, how can I say it, as, as players, I guess, on the business field,
This is called rainbow capitalism, when gay people are exploited under capitalism.
Commercialism is a horrible thing. Corporate culture is a disaster. Gay people want into these things that are just like hell.
One's very being starts to become the brand, starts to become the object that spreads the message of what's to be bought and sold.
Everyone had that fucking hat in the 90s. It wasn't just me. Everyone had that hat, okay? Because that hat was awesome. And it looked good with everything. You could put that hat on with literally any outfit and it would still work. So no making fun of the hat. Everyone had one in the 90s. It was like part of the law. They basically put one to you in the mail.
And we're just, we're literally from the bottoms of our shoes to the tops of our heads covered in logos. We're instruments of a consumer culture. It's the opiate. I mean, it's the ultimate sort of, it's a bait and switch. We can't adopt kids. We don't have good, protection in the workplace. We can go on and on with the list of all the ways in which our civil rights are virtually minimal. And yet people sit around feeling self-satisfied when, Melissa Etheridge publishes a dumb book.
And you only need to go so far as to look at the incredible success of Will and Grace, which I think actually has done more to advance the cause of gay and lesbian rights and tolerance than probably just about anything else.
I think the trick is to not be fooled to think that that's the same thing as some kind of actual sense of social justice. or to think that that's actually what America at some real, deep level
Social
actually feels or
justice.
believes towards us.
I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's that everyone's clamoring so hard for visibility and clamoring so hard for any gay
Queer
image,
haircut.
that the fact that these programs do all the same like hideous, stuff that all TV on all mainstream movies do
Wait,
in
that's
terms
Dean
of establishing
Spade?
body images and establishing.
That's Dean Spade? Holy shit! I've been thinking about finding some more Dean Spade to watch lately. We've watched Dean Spade. Holy shit! That's fucking crazy! Wow! There's been a viral clip about Dean Spade recently. Dean Spade is now full-on trans activist, queer activist. They've written a whole bunch of socialist books. Holy shit! What a good find. Hang on. I'll get that link Reagan sent. Yeah, go to the site. So this is Dean Spade today. This was in a presentation recently for Haymarket Books, actually. And actually, I think, didn't we watch this presentation? We definitely watched something with Dean Spade, but it might have been from the Fireside Co-op. Or Firestorm Co-op, the bookstore in North Carolina. So this is Dean Spade today.
I mean, I wish everyone could have the experience that I've had. People who I hated and wanted to destroy 20 years ago in the movement now are like the only other person who still hates gay marriage. And they're like, oh, I love you. Remember remember the sweet times we lived before homo nationalism, whatever. Like, it changes. It all arises and,
So Dean Spade hated gay marriage back then, just like queer liberationists, because Dean Spade is an anti-assimilationist.
And passes away. And what does it mean to really, I've been really just doing this lately. It's impersonal. It's imperfect. It's impermanent. Everything is impersonal. It's imperfect. It's impermanent. For me, that really helps me collect myself towards compassion for myself and others with like all of our many mistakes, I mean, I wish everyone could have the experience that I've had.
This is crazy. And now here is Dean Spade back in the early 2000s.
Or beliefs towards us.
I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's that everyone's clamoring so hard for visibility and clamoring so hard for any gay image, that the fact that these programs do all the same like hideous, stuff that all TV on all mainstream movies do in terms of establishing body images and establishing consumer norms and product placement and, race stereotypes and gender stereotypes and gender normativity. All of that is like
gender
okay.
normativity. Dean Spade was talking about gender normativity in the early 2000s when them was still a girl. This is wild. It's not often we see young activists back in kind of like the heyday where they learned all this shit. Wow. It really puts it in a new perspective, doesn't it? To see someone as an activist that we've watched on this channel before multiple times. And to go back, and this was what, 30 years ago? Almost, 25 years ago? That's crazy.
As long as there's like a gay character in there.
We don't have to have extremists.
Hey, thanks, Andre, for the super chat. Thanks for making me laugh on the holy sheet. Yeah. Yeah, I have a weird accent. I have a Vermont accent mixed with a slightly Boston accent at times.
Or radical positions or aggressions or statements that is no longer necessary.
such a spending market.
The high disposable income.
Gays and lesbians are perceived to at least have more expendable income.
It's a market that has a higher median income than most average household.
Well, they're the ones with expendable income. It's a big market. There's a lot of dollars in that population.
It further fragments the queer community because from the very beginning, this idea of being part of a demographic that has disposable income is frankly not true. And as a matter of fact, most queers don't. And a lot of statistics show that particularly women, lesbians in particular, have the least amount of money and the least amount of clout economically.
We'll accept, your gay endorsement on any terms. We don't care what else your politics are, and we don't care how else you're killing tons of people with your policies, as long as you're good on gay issues.
These really are very tempting fruits. I mean, it does feel good to everyone. You know, it's hard to not look at these things and feel a little bit of relief when we feel so deprived of access to the larger culture.
Budweiser's had a long-standing commitment to the gay community.
Budweiser's been sponsoring Pride at least since the early 2000s. This is wild, man. This is fucking wild. This is wild. Conservatives thought that they caught Budweiser with Dylan Mulvaney. No, Budweiser's been sponsoring this shit for fucking ever. Oh my god, conservatives are so retarded. Man, hang on, I need to get a screenshot of this. Wow. Conservatives, guys, like, let's just, like, wrap our heads around this. It took 20 years. It took over 20 years for conservatives to catch up to the fact that Budweiser was sponsoring leftist shit. And Budweiser would have continued to get away with it if not for Dylan Mulvaney being especially triggering. But, like, Dylan Mulvaney was not the start of the Budweiser woke shit. The and it probably started even before this. They were over 20 years behind. We are so fucked. We are so fucked. It's not even funny. Oh my god. These people have been putting laws in place since the 1990s to take away parental rights in schools. Conservatives are just finding out about it 2 years ago. Bruh. We are so fucked. It is, you know what? It is hilarious. It is hilarious and it's also sad, but it's also hilarious, but it's also really sad. We are so fucked, but we have to laugh about it because if we don't laugh, we'll cry because it's so fucking pathetic. The left has been doing this literally in the public forever and ever and ever, and conservatives just never even noticed it because they were so distracted by Bill Clinton getting a fucking blowjob in the Oval Office that they were like, woo, like, don't worry about all this project. No, no, no. Bill Clinton got a blowjob. That's really what the problem is. It's like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, they had jobs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That, to me, is the ultimate future where, you know, you have a gay-themed ad that can run in mainstream media and have people go, oh, okay.
As I look back on it, yeah, kind of having this feeling of, oh, yeah, they're
fucked.
like
We are so
marketing
fucked.
to me,
It's
they're
not even
catering
funny.
to me, and sort of having this sense of power about it.
And it's like, you know, it's like the moment you come to this realization of just how behind the eight ball we are. Listen, man, I was in high school in the 90s. All right? I was in high school in Vermont in the 90s. I couldn't be expected to pay attention to this stuff as a high school student in Vermont in the 90s. But there were conservative politicians who were supposed to be paying attention, whose entire job was to pay attention. There were conservative media back then that should have been paying attention. Where the fuck were they? And it's like you kind of come to a point of peace with it where you're like, they've always been behind. They don't pay attention. They don't listen. We cannot expect the right to do anything to come and save us. And you come to a place of acceptance about this. You can fight it. You can hate them for being fucking stupid. You can complain. You can demean them, which I do regularly because they deserve it. But it's just like, at some point you just accept that the right is never going to change. They're never going to change. And you can't teach them things. And you can't show them evidence because they don't want to pay attention to it because they can't wrap their heads around it. They accuse everyone else of being lazy when it is they themselves who are the lazy ones who missed all of this stuff that was happening right out in the open. Listen, man, I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been involved in all this for 5 years. And I've already reverse engineered all of this going back decades to figure out what the fuck happened. Where the fuck have conservatives been this entire time? Nowhere. If I can reverse engineer all of this in 5 years, then none of them have any excuse. All the information is available. Where the fuck was Rush Limbaugh? Where was he? Getting a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Ignored the thing that was actually the most important thing. Okay. I've come to peace with the right pushing us off a cliff while the left pulls us along. Yeah. Ain't that the truth? The left will win because the right allowed them. The left will win because of the right.
But then not thinking at the time what kind of power that is. If being marketed to is really power.
What's put out by the mainstream in terms of what, gay people are, it's all around like, consumerist. They're, it's just, they use the gay culture as like this consumerist culture.
How has the nature of the Pride marches changed from the beginning to as it is right now?
This movement
Sylvia Rivera,
become
Stonewall.
so capitalist. It is a capitalist movement.
Wow.
The first 4 years was basically fun. I mean, the festival took place right on Christopher.
So Sylvia Rivera, for people who don't know, Sylvia Rivera is one of the people that basically instigated the Stonewall riot. The Stonewall riot was in 1969. It was when the police tried to raid a gay bar, and they essentially had a standoff for several days. The Stonewall riot is like it's like a pivotal moment in queer activism. And so now Sylvia Rivera, the person that instigated the Stonewall riot, is saying, this movement is just too assimilationist and capitalist, because Sylvia Rivera was a queer Marxist from the very beginning, back to 1969. Again, this is the difference between normie, Democrat, liberal, gay rights activists and radical, revolutionary queer Marxists. Well, it doesn't matter, though. It honestly doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter if she lied. I mean, probably she did. But, like, what matters is this was a seminal turning point in queer activism. And this is one of the central figures that has been involved in all of this shit. And this is this person in, like, what, the 90s or the 2000s saying, this whole movement is just a little bit too capitalist. Because by this point, the assimilationists largely were winning the fight. No, 1969. Sylvia Rivera was involved in Stonewall. 1969.
Movement. The first 4 years was basically fun. I mean, the festival took place right on Christopher Street, and everything was moderately priced.
Wow.
I didn't believe that I would have to sit here 32 years later and basically bitch about the fact that they have become so capitalist.
Wow.
Yeah, gay pride really is, you know, not what I need. It really is like sort of consumerist and racist and just not the politics that really feeds my life.
This is no longer my pride. I gave them their pride, but they have not given me mine.
I think that there definitely is, a difference between someone who's coming from a queer radical perspective and another queer person who isn't necessarily coming from a very progressive or radical perspective. I think on the one hand, you have a group of people who are saying, we're interested in the transformation of society to rid society of inequity, be it about
Kazmar! Thank you, Kazmar. What a generous super chat. Everyone give a round of applause to Kazmar. Thank you very much for watching with us. This is absolutely this is fascinating, and I appreciate you being here. I appreciate everyone being here. Let's go. But, like, this is crazy. They were just talking about inequity. I thought the term equity didn't come up for at least another 10 years. Holy shit. Yeah, the transformation of this was back in the early 2000s. The transformation of society, that means overthrowing capitalism. Equity is another term for Marxism. Holy shit. Reagan, this is like one of your best finds ever. Listen again.
You have a group of people who are saying, we're interested in the transformation of society to rid society of inequity, be it about race or be it.
We were interested in the NEA. Oh, that's the National Endowment for the Arts. That's not the NEA Teachers Union. We were interested in the transformation of society to rid society of inequity. They're literally calling for the overthrow of the government. Everyone understands that, right? The transformation of society to rid society of inequity is calling for the overthrow of the capitalist U.S. government. Bro, I know you think you know what you're talking about, but you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. You need to listen. Listen again.
A group of people who are saying, we're interested in the transformation of society to rid society of inequity, be it about race or be it about sexuality or what have you. And on the other hand, with, say, non-radical people, non-radical queer people, you might say that that they might be, fighting for a piece of the pie, fighting against job discrimination, but not necessarily fighting against, capitalism in general.
Yo! I'm going to have to go back and clip this entire thing and put it on the Queer Marxism website. This is insane. It's like one of those instances where you know something happened, but then to be provided with direct video confirmation that something happened, it's like I'm provided now with the video thanks to Reagan that confirms my entire theory for what happened. Wow, we need to watch more documentaries from the 90s and the 2000s, man. Again, I'm sorry, we need to listen to this again. He said the whole fucking thing in one single statement in the early 2000s.
Necessarily coming from a very progressive or radical perspective. I think on the one hand, you have a group of people who are saying, we're interested in the transformation of society to rid society of inequity, be it about race or be it about sexuality or what have you. And on the other hand, with, say, non-radical people, non-radical queer people, you might say that that they might be, fighting for a piece of the pie, fighting against job discrimination, but not necessarily fighting against, capitalism in general.
Wow. Wait, what did that say? Hang on. Resist the pressure of assimilation. That's what this says. Again, assimilationist, normie gay rights activist, anti-assimilationist, radical, queer, revolutionary communists. Look at this.
You know, capitalism in general.
Resist the pressure of assimilation. In response to the capitalist, anti-political climate of contemporary gay, lesbian, and bi culture, Queeruption, radical queer, I don't know what that word is, was organized in 1990 in New York City. A group of 20 to 30 volunteer organizers met weekly during the spring and summer to plan the event, which took place on. So I bet you a lot of this stuff was filmed in the late 90s. Wow, this is wild. Play.
We started meeting, I believe the first meeting was in July, but I could be wrong. Because thinking back, that seems very late to have a first meeting for an October gathering, but most meetings were between 30 and 50 people with one facilitator. We rotated facilitation. But the agenda was largely set every meeting so that people would go around and tell the facilitator what they wanted to talk about or what they wanted to be on the agenda. We took notes. We made notes available via email after the meetings. There was a listserv that was started. We probably had, I don't remember, 10 or 15 committees, from food to housing to entertainment to outreach. And so we would go around and every committee would check in. There would usually be someone there from every committee.
Hang on. Approximately 350 people, both Americans and internationals, attended the event, which included workshops, demos, arts, and entertainment, as well as free food and housing. Queeruption was intended to be the opportunity for radical queers, that means revolutionary, to share their skills and talents, get to know each other, and start to build a network of people with anti-capitalist interests and concerns.
Did you drive in from Virginia?
Yes. It took us like 10 hours. And, you know, because we had some problems, but it was a good time. We made it.
Well, we barely got here this morning, but it's pretty cool so far. I don't know.
So many people have come so far and wanting to come early and help out and pitch in.
Happy to see like an agenda for a queer event this radical that incorporated other issues besides identity politics.
I'm particularly interested in in integrating like queer politics with radical politics.
Bro.
And so in order to be become more efficient at being like an anti-racist, anti-capitalist, feminist, queer activist.
What the fuck? How do we become an anti-racist, feminist, queer? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, this is crazy. It's like all the words, literally all the words. Who has been screaming that all of this came from queer ideology like for years? Of course, no one ever listens to me. And then we find like evidence where it's like incontrovertible. I was fucking right. I was right from the beginning. Everyone laughed at me. No one took me seriously. And I was right from the very fucking beginning. I was right. I was right from the start. No one will ever acknowledge it.
And so in order to be become more efficient at being like an anti-racist, anti-capitalist, feminist, queer activist, so it's good to be here in that respect.
And for me, one of the things that started me off in my path as a revolutionary was being a lesbian and being oppressed because of that, and being fucked over because of that, and hating injustice because I hated what was done to me, and then I could understand, you know, how what was done to other oppressed people was unjust.
Class struggle feminism is a totally different thing. It's not about getting
Anarcho-feminism workshop.
the power to have power over people. It's about making everybody equal.
Some people go to school and read
What?
books. They read books without going to school.
What's that? Zines workshop? A zines workshop? You don't say. A zines workshop? Wow. Has anyone else figured out the zines thing, by the way? Am I still literally the only one to this day that's talking about the fucking zines thing? No one else has figured this out that hasn't talked to me. Wow.
And then, like, it's nice to see those ideas recycled in zines or in song lyrics or something, because, you know, not everybody gets around to reading those books.
Skill sharing workshops is like the biggest thing that I think really needs to go on everywhere. Learning how to do stuff yourself and being able to like get outside the capitalist world.
Get outside the capitalist world. Fly down.
I think it's a very important part.
The documentation of all the work that went into Queer.
Get out.
All the background work that goes into
The zines and all the DIY shit is to get outside of the capitalist world. Make the Ramble a safe space for all queers. Queer Carnival.
Reading those books.
Skill sharing workshops is like the biggest thing that I think really needs to go on everywhere. Learning how to do stuff yourself and being able to like get outside the capitalist world.
I think it's a very important part.
The documentation of all the work that went into Queer.
All the background work that goes into making a queer radical queer function.
I went to the Horse Caucus, which is really cool. And we swapped ideas, and most of us have been in the sex service before, so we swapped ideas and thoughts.
Well, it's not what I expected. I felt like I would be amongst like friends forever immediately, but I don't know. There's a lot of different attitudes. Everyone's not the same as me, and I don't know. It's a little more coarse than I thought it would be. But I'm still meeting some really neat people.
I guess the biggest part of conferences is networking, and Queeruption is a chance for people from different communities or queer activists that have a certain sort of shared agenda to get together and sort of hopefully share resources and skills.
I wanted to be involved in Queeruption because basically like this kind of like queer grouping has been really rare in my life, but something I've always been really...
One of the things that I would like to work on, and I'm just making a note out there for anyone who wants to work on this, okay? So we're working on creating a map of the modern left. We're working on creating a zine archive that's publicly available and accessible. We already have a private zine archive that's in my Discord. One of the things I would like to work on is I want to go back and find all of these kind of documentaries of this time period, and I want to put all of this together in one place. So I think this could be like, this documentary is obviously going in there, like the queercore stuff is going in there. I want to create an archive of all of these different like all this evidence that came out at the time and put it in one place. I need to pee. I'll be right back, but you guys keep watching.
Hungry for, starving actually.
I've been doing queer conferences since I was 15, and doing workshops at them and being really involved, but it was very much a different kind of queer scene. It was like way more the like, we want to just mainstream, we all want to wear Gap, we all want to like just get in there and be like American.
Because there's too much in queer culture, like this what desire to assimilate into regular mainstream culture, which is basically living up to like the typical racist sexism and classism that exists.
I couldn't connect to gay culture that I had seen in other places, and so I was just like, I can't relate to you.
What just happened? What did I just miss? I see Sam saying, whoa. They're talking about punk, aren't they? They're fucking talking about punk, aren't they? Yeah, I know Xander, actually. They're fucking talking about punk, aren't they? Sorry, I need to rewind. I think we're going to watch the Queercore documentary for Socialism Saturday for people who haven't seen it or maybe want to see it again.
Life, but something I've always been really hungry for, starving actually.
I've been doing queer conferences since I was 15. I'm doing workshops at them and being really involved, but it was very much a different kind of queer scene. It was like way more the like, we want to just mainstream, we all want to wear Gap, we all want to like just get in there and be like American.
Because there's too much in queer culture, like this what desire to assimilate into regular mainstream culture, which is basically living up to like the typical racist sexism and classism that exists.
I couldn't connect to gay culture that I had seen in other places, and so I was just like, I can't relate to you, I can't be in your community, and so it's exciting to me when I feel like I can relate to people.
Yes, actually, the Queercore documentary has a lot of Bruce LaBruce stuff in it. Were you around, Kev, when we watched the Queercore documentary the first time? There's a fuck ton of Bruce LaBruce stuff in that. Well, they were so open because there was no reason for them not to be. We need to go back and find all this stuff like this that was produced in the 90s and the 2000s. History will look upon conservatives and judge them for being weak men that resulted in bad times. Yeah, real.
And that my like internal identity can like find other people.
Yo! My internal identity.
Just because they're like girls that sleep with girls or like girls that date girls, that doesn't mean that they're like my people, because they're like fucking conservative and like middle class and all this shit, and I'm like that.
Just because they're gay doesn't mean they're my people, because they're conservative and middle class. Gay and queer were not the same thing. I will look them up. This is actually another thing I want to do. I want to create it. Like, this is part of the Mapping the Modern Left project, so I made a note of that. Thank you. I will definitely look them up. Listen.
Just because they're like girls that sleep with girls or like girls that date girls, that doesn't mean that they're like my people, because they're like fucking conservative and like middle class and all this shit, and I'm like that just means nothing to me. Like, their concerns are not my concerns.
This is the first time that I've ever felt that I actually have a community, that there are people who understand all the different political issues that I'm interested in.
Being queer in Montana doesn't happen. It's not a way of life. Everything that I learned here, I would spread it out to the people there.
Domestic violence workshop that they called yesterday on top of the roof was super awesome.
The workshop that I'm really excited about is the People of Color Caucus, just to have a chance, because there's all those different levels of alienation that happen of like not feeling part of the queer or like mainstream gay community, but also having some sense of not fitting into, you know, like being like people of color communities that, you know, that we're from.
I'm looking for many workshops on trans inclusion. Trans inclusion.
Trans inclusion. This is
I like the Camp Trans
guys.
workshop a lot, because I felt like we were doing something there. We were moving towards like a goal and maybe arguing a bit on the way.
I want to go to Ruckus, the queer self-defense one.
They were having a queer self-defense workshop in the late fucking 90s? Oh, a struggle session is coming up. Great.
I never got to be a cheerleader because at my school, fat girls weren't allowed to be cheerleaders. But I like this because you get to say dirty
Fat
things.
positivity.
Yeah.
Yo!
The black stuff is the inner tube.
They're making a bicycle tire dildo. Did you guys hear that?
You put them in to fill up your bicycle tire dildo, right?
Fill up your bicycle tire dildo.
The black stuff is the inner tube from a bike. And I cut it open, wrapped it around. And some orange, what is this, electrical tape?
How long did it take you to make that?
20 minutes.
But why? Why, though? There were sex stores in the 90s. You could have just bought one.
Baby God, sanctified woman. And I swear I'm saved by what you did to me. God smiled down. It's a blessing again. Know the good thing when the good things. What you see, come on now, testify.
I'm Ben from New York. Don't know enough public sex scenes at all.
We can talk about, well, if I have the money and they're more expensive, I can make an informed choice. If I can afford these, then I'm helping women's businesses, and that's another sort of political, economic statement I could be making.
I was involved with Queeruption in London, in Brixton, and so I had some idea that it was going to be a queer anarchist sort of radical space to explore lots of different issues, and there would be room to kind of develop it as it went along and suggest debates and stuff.
I really can appreciate the kind of social analysis and social criticism that's going on because it's kind of like an understood that we're anti-capitalistic, which is something you kind of have to prove or tell other people about when you're doing queer activism.
I want to radicalize. I want to free.
This is like this entire thing is like one long set of clips. I have to make clips of all of this and put them in a presentation. When you're a queer activist, you have to prove that you're anti-capitalist. Oh, yeah? Oh, you don't say.
Because it's kind of like an understood that we're anti-capitalistic, which is something you kind of have to prove or tell other people about when you're doing queer activism.
I want to radicalize. I want to free up. I want to like let loose and allow anarchy to reign, which is not chaos. It's just like the freedom to be able to intermingle and then re-mingle and change things that allows people to participate more and change their mind and learn from each other and change the patterns as we see fit, not just I see fit or they see fit.
You know, revolution, the big R word, I believe happens through the process of something.
What?
Not necessarily the end product.
Radicalism is that process of living your revolution every day.
Living your revolution every day. Radicalism is living the revolution every day. Oh, Matilda. This definitely looks like a Matilda, huh?
I think the action tomorrow night, the Take Back Central Park action, will go really well. And I'm excited about that.
We're here! We're queer! We're taking back the park! We're here! We're queer! We're taking back the park!
What cops would say is that they're stopping illegal activities like cruising and like prostitution. But what's clear from these instances is that queers are being arrested simply for being queer. And so this action, the Take Back Central Park action, is to create a safe space for all queers to flame, be loud, have fun, and to show the real danger in the park, which is not cruising queers, but racist, homophobic cops.
Yeah, exactly. Racist, homophobic cops.
There you go.
I guess in general, I just wanted to see like what was going on with like radical queer activism, to see how inclusive it was of all different people and different generations and different ideas.
I don't see a lot of people of color represented here, and I don't see on the workshops and stuff, I don't see a lot of people of color centered workshops, and I think that the anti-racist workshop is a good one, but I would have liked to see more discussion over the entire weekend.
A really essential lacking of this radical conference is that race has not been one of the essential categories in everything we're talking about.
Wow.
It has been marginalized. And so
Yeah.
how can we have a radical queer politic if we are ignoring this major aspect of every interaction we have in the society? That's where it becomes bullshit.
Oh
That's where it
my
becomes questionable.
god! Did she just say, hang on.
Aspect of every interaction we have in the society, that's where it becomes bullshit, and that's where it becomes questionable, and that's what needs to be addressed.
So, do you think you're not racist? Think again. Check out Anti-Racism for White Queers. Oh. Oh my god. We are so fucked.
On a very political, systematic level, not just on a personal, how you doing, what's up.
1999, guys. 1999. Here's the struggle session. The result of the People of Color Caucus was a direct action. The direct action included the posting of signs, critiquing the lack of racial diversity at the gatherings, and urging participants and organizers to be held accountable. A walkout by many of the people from the caucus occurred shortly after the posting of the signs. They were struggle sessioning each other to be more anti-racist in the 90s. Do you know why we watch all of the videos that have no views, but that come directly out of these organizations? Because they're doing this shit and no one is paying attention. And it's always the videos with like the smallest number of views where they say and do the craziest shit. Bro, this is so crazy. Literal hidden gems. They were doing it in the open all along and no one bothered to watch it.
Is that we have to be like, why is it that we walk into this conference and we're all like, oh shit, everyone's white here, but like, why don't they walk in and say the same
oh
shit?
shit,
everyone looks like me and is white here.
If you're gonna advertise fucking queer of color, like, fuck, don't
Hang
do
on.
that. Like,
Hang on. What did that actually
don't,
say?
like,
Hang
bring
on.
us
Where's my
to all-
mouse? Where's my mouse? Disappeared. What did that actually say?
Say, oh shit. Everyone looks like me and is white here.
If you're gonna advertise,
Are you sick of assimilationist, ding ding ding, racist, white, centered consumerist, tranny-fearing, apolitical, because queer is a political ideology, sex-closeted, war-supporting, corporate-worshipping, Bud Light? Bud Light was literally called out on the fucking flyer!
advertise fucking queer of color, like, fuck, don't do that. Like, don't like bring us to all white conference. I'm like fucking pissed off about it.
I wonder if it's occurring to people that the reason that we have to have this caucus is because there's so few
Wait.
of us.
Why are the people of color the only ones taking direct action against racism here? Check yourself.
Here, when I try to talk to people who aren't people of color to talk about why I feel uncomfortable, like, they can't, it's hard to kind of pinpoint what it is and like explain to them what it feels like. But the thing that I've sort of come up with recently, and I'd like to hear if other people feel this, is that what's really important is being able to see reflections of yourself to affirm that, like, who you are.
I'm trying to find a space to be radical in, to be a person of color in, and to heal in with.
Trying to figure out when are the right moments for me to talk about race, and not to seem complicit in everything. This space right now is like what I really need to hear at this conference, because I feel like there's so much hypocriticalness in what people like to call the radical community, when it's really not, because they don't deal with a lot of their own issues. The propaganda for Queeruption was let's push the corporate capitalist, like the typical like queer culture scene, but really it's like shifting it to a different scene. Like, instead of rainbows and capitalists, we're the anti-capitalists, but running around with the same classism and racism.
if you don't have things that people of color want to talk about, and if you don't have organizers from the beginning who are people of color, then why the fuck would non-white people want to come to these things, and like you're not like addressing any issues that we want to talk about.
Well, I think that that's one of the issues, not having enough workshops on, people of color issues. I think, however, like the main problem is not incorporating the separate dynamics that would happen if color was involved.
And everyone in this room is radically queer in that we all want to make a change. That's why we're all here. We're willing to do whatever it takes to address these issues, race issues, tranny issues. When the organizers when the organizers put together those flyers and they're sending out all these flyers, they were not discriminating to who was going to get these flyers.
I want to be called on my homophobia because I am homophobic also. I want to be called on my racism because I am a racist. I want to be called on my sexism because I exhibit these behaviors. I'm working through shit. We all are. We are all in this process. This is a really big fucked up world. We are all coming here to begin to address it all.
And for me, like, I don't care if those issues are raised again and again, because for me, Queeruption isn't about one weekend where people come, everything is fabulous and fine, and no, hang on, it's not a joke. The minute people walk into the door, everything is organized and perfect. Queeruption is a start. It's not about this weekend being perfect. It's about building something. It's about creating something.
Issues concerning diversity have not been uncommon within activism in the radical community. However, it does not mean they should be overlooked. By examining past mistakes, we can create better strategies for future activism. As inspiration and a learning tool, Queeruption is part of a growing movement of radical queer activists committed to challenging the issues of our community and our world.
I think that a starting point for activists has to be like an examination of their own privilege, of our own privilege.
In terms of specific groups, that doesn't necessarily mean that, that white queer radicals are always going to get it concerning racism. Because if you're part of a community that's so insular as to be separate from other people of color, as to be separate from, say, activists of queer activists of color, then you're also becoming separate from a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge about strategies to combat racism and about experiences involving racism. So that definitely has a negative impact there. So I think you certainly have the vision in mind of, of a transformed society, but not necessarily the connection with other people.
These are the same issue. This is, these things happen simultaneously to our bodies, police brutality, racism, transphobia, poverty, all of these issues should be essential to a gay identity and to a gay activism, not something
Queers
that you have to put aside in order to go out and do gay
Queers fight
activism
back.
that's based on the experiences.
Hello, Bashback.
Something that you have to put aside in order to go out and do gay activism that's based on the experiences basically of like people who don't experience other kinds of oppression.
Really believe that what you're doing is right and in your heart. I mean, that's how most of us come to this. It's because it's in our heart. And so we have to do it. For some people, it's because the oppression is so great, they don't have a choice. It's either change it or you die.
That's ACT UP
so I think
right there. Silence equals death is ACT UP. Full democratic rights for homosexuals. Okay, I thought they were saying something about the Democratic Party. Bro, seriously. Thank you.
It's either change it or you die. So I think it's really about, this relationship building and how we build these relationships, putting out our values, talking in proactive and pro-affirming ways. And
yes, it did.
Really understanding that it's a process for people to change. That just as it took us a long time, it takes people a long time to change.
Capitalism or racism or those kinds of things that I was raised on are part of what's in my head, and so sometimes I do act inappropriately, and I need to not be afraid to hear that when someone calls me out on it, and not be afraid to learn how to do something new that's uncomfortable, about unlearning something I've learned.
How you break things down to people, how you make your ideas accessible to people, you have to be constantly asking yourself,
Things like consensus, things like
I wonder what all these people are doing today.
At the start of a meeting, things like go-arounds, language like that, and organizing strategies were something that I was completely not familiar with this.
Yeah, this is all
I feel
James
like
Lindsay's fault,
that
real.
kind of
Yep.
stuff, while not exclusive to white people, is something that is you have to become familiar with.
And then someone walks in off the street because they saw a flyer because their friend told them about this, and we don't know how to
Bro,
incorporate.
if that's what you're getting from this, you are fuck off retarded, like far more retarded than is allowed on my channel. This is the most low IQ take you could possibly have in this situation. So either get smarter or get the fuck out, because I don't want your low IQ bullshit here. I'm sorry.
them into the process in a way that makes them feel like they're
Literally a man is talking right now. Have you been paying attention to how many fucking men are in this video? Half the people in this fucking video are men. And conservative retards are still like, repeal the 19th, because they've convinced themselves that women created all this, except when you look at the actual evidence, there are literally men all throughout the fucking video. So this is why men can't be trusted to solve this problem. This is why dissident right-wing men cannot be trusted to solve this problem, because they literally pay no attention to the fact that men were involved in creating the fucking problem in the first place, and they think, okay, you're officially banned from the channel, you're far too stupid to be here. Then they're like, he's not a real man. No, he actually is a real man. Go fuck yourself. Bring your fucking women-hating bullshit elsewhere. We have serious fucking research to do. My God.
part of something, but also that doesn't derail the meeting so much, so all we're doing is giving everyone background about what's already happened.
But there's real differences, and that I don't think that we have a really wonderful way to talk about our differences and to take advantage of those differences, that when there is conflict because of differences, we see that as a negative thing. And usually it manifests itself as a negative thing because we don't think in this society.
Literally, while there's a man on screen, he chats in, repeal the 19th. God.
The conflict is actually a part of creativity
Unbelievably stupid.
and change, and that conflict is a harbinger of change.
And even the negative stuff that happens only, to me, happens to teach us a lesson as to how to move more positively into the future that we want to create, that we actually are the architects of our future.
Yeah, we'll ban you, bye. Like another guy chatted in, it's totally women. Okay, ban me if you want. Okay, bye, go away. Far too stupid to be here. If your explanation for this is, it's women, do you want to know what, bro? Do you want to know what? Guess what? Queer Marxism was started by men in the Mattachine Society. Guess what, conservative fucking retards? Queer Marxism was started by 5 fucking men in the Mattachine Society in the 1950s. Repeal the 19th. Guess what? It still would have happened because it was started by men, you fucking retards. Just like, guess what? Who created communism? Does anyone want to remind me? Was it men who created communism, or was it women who created communism? Was it men or women? It was men. Men created communism. Men created queer Marxism. Most of the people involved in that, well, not maybe most, half of the people involved in that video were fucking men. What is the answer to this from dissident right-wing retards? Repeal the 19th. Yeah, go fuck yourselves. You're not smart enough to be here. Go somewhere else. My God, no wonder we are in this mess. Because the only solution that is being offered has literally nothing to do with the fucking problem. The dissident right-wingers don't fucking get it because they're too interested in hating women. The fucking conservative retards and MAGA boomers don't get it because they're not smart enough to wrap their head around it. The only people offering solutions have no fucking clue what's even going on. This is why we are fucked. This is why we are completely fucked. All right, well, that was a really great documentary. Thank you, Reagan. I appreciate you bringing that up. That's all we have for the show today. That's all we have. I have nothing else to say. I am blown away by that video. It was so fucking wild to watch that video. it was like, this was in 1999. It came out in 2003, but I'm pretty sure it was filmed in 1999.